The farm was quiet, peaceful, except for the mulberry tree. It stood at the edge of our fields, a giant, twisted thing. Its branches, gnarled and thick, seemed to claw at the sky. I always felt uneasy near it. The tree was old, older than anyone knew. My grandparents told stories, whispers of things seen and unseen around that tree. I never went near it alone, not in the day, never at night. The air around the tree always felt different, heavy somehow, like a weight on my chest whenever I got too close. The scent of the mulberries, usually sweet, was cloying there, sickly sweet, like something rotting. It was a place to avoid, a place of shadows and whispers, a place I knew held secrets, dark secrets. It started subtly, shadows moving at the edge of my vision. Just when I looked, they were gone. Whispers, faint and cold, when I was alone in my room at night. I tried to ignore them, but the feeling of dread grew. A knot of fear in my stomach that wouldn't go away. Animals acted strangely too. The cows mooing in fear at night, chickens refusing to leave their coop during the day.
One night I woke to a cold spot in my room, right next to my bed. The air was thick, hard to breathe. I pulled the blanket over my head, but the coldness spread. It wrapped around me like icy fingers. I knew then. Whatever was happening, it was centered around that tree, and it was getting closer.
One night I woke to hushed voices, my mother and grandmother whispering urgently in the kitchen. I crept closer, hiding in the shadows.
My mother was dressed in a long white robe. Her face was pale, etched with worry. She held a small clay pot in her hand. It was filled with water. Holy water, I realized, my heart pounding. My grandmother was chanting softly, her eyes closed. They were preparing for something.
Suddenly my mother turned. Her eyes wide with fear met mine. She beckoned me closer. I hesitated, but the look on her face told me I had no choice. This was important. This was dangerous. She took my hand. Her skin was cold. "Stay close," she whispered. And then we were outside, walking towards the mulberry tree.
The night was moonless. The only light came from the lantern my mother carried. Its flickering flame cast dancing shadows, shadows that seemed to writhe and twist like living things. As we approached the tree, the air grew colder. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I wanted to run, but my mother held my hand tight.
And then I saw her, a figure shrouded in black standing beneath the tree. Her face was hidden in the shadows, but I could feel her eyes on us, cold, malevolent eyes.
My mother stopped a few feet away. She held up the clay pot. "Leave us," she said, her voice trembling. "This has nothing to do with you." The figure didn't move. It just stood there watching us.
Suddenly, the clouds parted. The moon emerged, bathing the clearing in an eerie silver light.
And I saw her face. It was the face of a young woman, but her eyes were ancient, filled with a hatred so deep it made me want to scream.
Then she smiled. It wasn't a human smile. It was a grotesque stretching of lips, revealing rows of sharp, pointed teeth.
Pulling Mido behind her.
My mother gasped and pulled me behind her. She began to sprinkle the water from the pot, but it was too late.
A terrifying growl ripped through the night. A hulking figure emerged from behind the woman. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness. Its skin was gray and rotting, and it was reaching for us.
I screamed. I couldn't help it. The terror was too much. This was a nightmare, a waking nightmare. We never spoke of that night again, but the memory haunted me. The grotesque faces of the creatures, the sheikh's powerful presence, the feeling of pure terror.
It was a memory I couldn't escape. Sometimes when I closed my eyes, I could still see the woman in black, her cold, dead eyes boring into mine. I could hear the rasping breath of the creature beside her, and I could feel the icy touch of fear.
My sleep was plagued by nightmares. The twisted branches of the mulberry tree reaching for me, the creatures with their glowing eyes, the sheikh's chanting voice. I would wake up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding. The fear stayed with me. Years have passed. I left the farm long ago, but I still remember the fear, the dread, the mulberry tree. I can still feel its presence in my nightmares.
I returned once, years later. The farm was gone, replaced by houses, streets, a park, but the tree remained, standing alone, a silent sentinel.
People walked their dogs past it. Children played beneath its branches. They didn't feel it. The darkness, the cold, the lingering presence of something evil. But I felt it.
But I felt it.
The mulberry tree still stands, a reminder of the horrors I witnessed, a symbol of the darkness that lurks at the edge of our world. The sheikh's warning echoes in my mind, a warning I can't forget, a warning about the unseen world, the creatures that hide in the shadows, the evil that waits for its moment to strike. I carry the fear with me still, a constant companion. It hides in the corners of my mind, waiting for me to let my guard down. I am forever haunted by the memory of that night, the haunting of the mulberry tree.